Welcome to the Book Pub Podcast. This is a podcast where two lovely ladies have some drinks. And oh my gosh, I need to screw. Your pantomime is screwing me up. I'm like, I'm going to close my eyes.
Well, it's our introduction.
Yes.
I kind of have our introduction a little bit memorized by now.
You have like this cheer thing for
I know. But
pantomime.
you do
Nobody
such a
can
lovely
see it.
introduction. I know, but it's just for us. Sometimes we have to have something just for us, Lesley.
Welcome to the Book Pub Podcast. This is a podcast where two women get together and talk about authors and the books that they wrote while enjoying a nice cocktail.
Yay!
So I'm Lesley.
I'm Madeline.
And who are we doing today, Madeline?
So, Lesley, I'm so stoked about this one for many reasons.
We're stoked about all of them all the time, I feel like, though.
Yes, but this one kind of fell in an appropriate way.
Okay.
For once.
Okay, cool.
Not just something kind of like arbitrary or like, oh, it's Halloween, let's do something thematic. Mm-hmm. No, this is like, oh, just so happens that
he was Jewish and he celebrated Passover. Happy Passover!
Happy Passover! No, this is a little bit of a week late, but still, it didn't register. National Poetry Day was exactly 6 days ago.
Oh, cool.
So I'm doing a poet.
Or
and I
maybe it's more like 9 days ago.
It was this past Sunday.
Yep, from today, but not the day that this is.
True. But you just mentioned that it was Passover, so people could do that.
Yeah, but it could still be Passover because the Passover is like a week long. So it's like we've got
But
time.
this is the start of Passover. So I thought that's why you were like, yay, Passover.
No, I was being in the bubble of, hey, it's still Passover.
Oh, okay. We're still in Passover. And between 6 to 10 days ago was National Poetry Day.
Yes, cool.
And I didn't realize it because I'm a terrible librarian, apparently, until too late. But I was already doing my research on Keats, and I was like, oh, this actually weirdly lines up because
Nice.
I want to do Keats next. Haha, surprise, we're doing John Keats. And I was like, oh, wait. This is the time to celebrate poetry. And all week I've been posting poems to my students. Shout out to Pablo Neruda. Thank you for giving me that little poet of goodness, that juicy little man.
Yes.
And so I posted that.
Which is the bread one?
An ode to my socks.
Oh, yes. Yay.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good one for the kids. And yes, the language is still kind of difficult, but it is him just giving homage to socks and love. And so I was like, it'll be good.
Did you post it in both Spanish and English?
I did.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that I did a full Spanish poetry day.
Yeah.
Then, did classics like Charles Silverstein, and found one by Roald Dahl, found one by other ones. It was really fun. It was really good to just get into this kid's poetry. Yeah. And then did one that was like a nursery rhyme so that they could see poems are more than just poems. Right. They're nursery rhymes, they're songs, they're everything. Yeah. And they're in multiple languages. So it was really fun. But I was really glad to be doing this while doing research on John Keats.
Yeah.
So fun.
I will say, I think Charles Silverstein and having everyone in our class, in elementary school, being obsessed with Shell was probably one of the things that got me into more absurdist literature, because it is really funny and absurd, yes. But it's still poetry. Kids poetry, so
absurd.
it's if you don't read it as kids poetry, it's if you're just kind of reading it, because you're an asshole 9-year-old or something, and so you think everything in the world and stuff, and it's just oh, it reads as absurdism, it's an introduction to absurdism.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, now you're ready to read about the wheelbarrow, so much depends on a red wheelbarrow, and all of these other kind of crazy T.S. Eliot and stuff like that, it's a great foray into that.
Yeah, no, this Shel Silverstein, totally so abstract, so weird. And so I actually had a hard time finding one that actually wasn't going to be construed as something too weird.
Okay, yeah.
Because I wanted to make sure it was accessible to all kids, and through different cultural backgrounds and all that stuff. So I was trying to find something really neutral. I actually had a really hard time finding it. He's very weird.
Yeah.
There's some like slightly inappropriate stuff in there too. You don't really realize that as a kid until you're reading it as an adult for kids, and you're like, ooh, nope, can't post that one. Oh no, okay, nope. But I loved it.
Some
I had
parent
so
might
much
get
fun.
mad at me
I
because
know.
they'll like see this something that like the kids don't see.
It's about the poetry. It's about that. So
Yeah.
but I really had fun celebrating poetry this week because poetry is amazing. It's the conversation of the soul and the senses. It's not meant to necessarily just tell a story. So you have to read poetry with more of this abstract way anyway. So I had fun.
It's like listening to art.
It is.
It's like
It's you.
it's
Yes.
like the same kind of feeling you get when you look at a painting or something. You know,
Yes.
poetry. It's like, oh, interesting. I wonder, you know, is this just a picture of a bowl of fruit? Or, you know, is this just a poem about socks? Or is there something
more.
you know, with like the styling and da-da-da, you know, it's...
Totally. And that's why when people are like, I don't really get poetry, it's like, well, because you're not listening to it.
Yeah.
Even if you have to listen to it yourself, you say it out loud or something, you're not listening with your soul. Like, that's what poetry is. I mean, I'm just a poet. We're both poet nerds.
Yeah.
Also, hence why we've spent the last 6 minutes just going into talking about poetry. This is why this podcast got started, because Leslie and I just hang out and really geek out
Yeah.
on
Good times.
literature stuff. So anyways, yes, John Keats. I read a lot of his poems in February because John Keats is a poet from the Romantic period in England. He really strictly only wrote poems, but he wrote many different poems. And what's fascinating about him is that he only had 6 years in which he was writing poems.
Okay.
And he's one of the most prolific prolific poets.
He had really abstract plays, if we're going to call him a playwright.
Really abstract. So he's just fascinating. He's amazing. And I was reading him and I said, I have to get more into John Keats. So I bring you John Keats.
Woohoo! Yay!
A week to week and a half after.
Poety day.
Poety day.
And what are we drinking for Keats?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I struggled so hard trying to find something that I would sit down and have with John Keats that represented who he was as an author and what I also wanted to share with him. So what I did after much research is finally just decided to make my own damn thing.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
love
a
it when we make our own.
combination of like a spiked Arnold Palmer meets an amaretto sour.
Nice.
So I'm just calling it the John Keats.
Cool. Ooh, could we call it Ode to a Cocktail?
Oh, to a cocktail. Oh, high five. Woo!
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much. Sorry,
You had all those ode to a...
very loud. I just really got Ode to a Cocktail by John Keats. Oh God, yes. He wrote a lot of odes.
Yeah, because I was trying to think of like different odes. I was like, okay, like Nightingale, this and that. I'm like, oh, just like Ode to a Cocktail.
Ode to a Grecian urn. Ode to a cocktail. Yes, I love it. So this is the Ode to a Cocktail. And what it is you muddle some cherries. And I want you to pay attention because there are reasons behind almost every ingredient.
Okay.
Okay?
I have homework.
So I'm excited for what you say at the end. Okay. So you muddled some dark cherries.
Okay.
You put 1.5 ounces of limoncello.
Okay.
You do 1 ounce of lemon juice, 1 ounce of amaretto, 3 ounces of iced tea.
Okay.
And you stir it all together. And then you pour it and you strain it into a cocktail glass. And if you have brandied cherries, you can throw one in there. I wanted the brandied cherry to show up more, but this is actually a very red cocktail,
Yeah.
as you will see in the Instagram post. So it's fun that there's a little cherry at the end, but
It's hidden.
it's hidden. Exactly. And that can be another reasoning. So
Yay.
let's try it.
Alrighty. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
What I like is that you mentioned all these like lemon stuff, and it immediately makes me think like, ooh, it's gonna be sour, but it's not sour at all. It's like maybe the iced tea or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's not like some hard liquor in there that would like balance out the sourness typically, like that what you typically see. So I think it's kind of cool that it's it is what it is. It's not, it is like an iced tea kind of taste, but
yeah, it's got that
fruity
it's like
or something.
Yeah, it's like a fruity Arnold Palmer,
yeah.
which I'm totally okay with. So
Tastes a little like those juices that they give you in the hospital sometimes when they mix like, you know, they mix like all the juices together, but totally, you know, kind of different because it'll be like, you know, cranberry juice and grapefruit and orange juice and like all, you know what I mean? Where they have those like amazing juices. It's like the best thing about being in a hospital is like, can I get one of those like crazy juices? And like, it tastes a little like that, I guess, but like the alcohol version.
But the alcohol version. But it's not really that strong because it's just
No.
limoncello and amaretto. So it's
Yeah.
not like one of those ones where you're like, well, I'm going to feel this in the morning. It's
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
like, which is so the antithesis of another one that we recently tried.
Yeah.
It was fun. I had fun doing a lot of research. And again, there's a lot of cocktails out there that I now want to try that I had no idea about.
Nice. I love that.
Also, side note, for any listeners, and this listener in particular who's sitting
Me?
across from me, I did look up Crazy Ex-Girlfriend cocktails,
Yeah.
but they don't have like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend cocktails. They have a cocktail for each character.
Oh.
And there's not one character that I could pinpoint that would match Keats enough.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was like Greg's drink, you know,
of course. Yeah. You gotta have.
Rachel's drink, you
Yeah.
know, all those ones, like, and they had funny names to it, but
fun.
not one that was an actual
Like for the whole
Crazy
show.
Ex-Girlfriend.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Ooh, I want to look at that.
So you should look at that.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to spoil that one, so I didn't text you about it.
Okay.
So that's why.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell you in person now.
Nice. Ooh, yeah.
I
That'll be
saw
fun.
everything. There is some really people get really creative out there, and it's fun.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's like a little too much to me. I'm like, I'm never gonna do that.
No.
but like,
They're
it's
like-
really cool that you came up with that.
Yeah, they're like doing these fancy, like you have to like spark the end of it just to get the aromatic da-da-da and steam it for 3 days. I'm like,
Oh my
no.
gosh, right? Yeah, that's what I remember with Halloween cocktails. It was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of really insane Halloween cocktails. I think what we did was like, what for Halloween we did like corpse revivers or something. Just you know, because it was like
You did the cocktail.
yeah,
I
yeah.
did the misshapen cookies.
Yes. Yes.
That was fun. Oh no! What happened? Are they burnt? No, they're just no longer shaped the way we planned them to be.
It's just one big cookie
It's
now.
just one big massive blob.
Yay.
Anyway,
Adulting during Halloween.
it was really entertaining. And then we watched a kids movie.
Yay.
Oh, John Keats.
Yes. Nice segue.
It's just one of those, like, we're just having a good old time. John Keats was born late October,
Okay.
1795.
Hey, there we go. That's the segue. You know, it's like
Exactly. We're
and
just
guess
talking about
who was born
We're
around
just like,
Halloween.
look at this.
Oh.
Coincidence? I think not.
Oh no, it was totally planned. This is all fully scripted.
Yes, we sit down months beforehand and script every moment out. We're very scripted.
Yeah. Line.
The beast. No, if you don't like non-scripted people, don't listen to us, but we have a good time and you're just hanging out in the living room with us. Whoop whoop.
Yeah.
So John Keats was born on late October 1795. He was baptized and therefore know this in the written book situation.
Right.
October 31st, 1795. So yes, he was baptized on Halloween.
Nice.
So actually was kind of a segue. He was baptized in Moorgate, London. He's the oldest of the surviving children to Thomas and Francis. You have to
Okay.
say surviving because obviously there was a lot of...
The dead kids that
Yeah.
existed before.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the dead babies.
All the...
I hate that I even said that. I was like, oh, wee.
I know, it just is like really heart-wrenching and I hate it.
But it happened. That's the fact of
That was the fact.
you know,
I wish I could just, like,
pre-penicillin days
Hug
and
people and make things better, but it was bad, so you have to say he is the eldest of the surviving children.
yeah.
Anyway, sip of cocktail now. His siblings are George, Thomas, and Frances Mary.
Okay.
So she's Francis Jr.
Okay.
Because mom's
George
Francis.
Thomas is one person and Frances
No,
Mary's
George,
one person.
No, it would be really great if that was actually it.
The name is
No,
Frances Mary.
his second brother in line. So it goes George, then Thomas,
Mm-hmm.
then Frances Mary. And the parents were Francis and Thomas. So they obviously named the last two after themselves.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. But I do want you to kind of keep track of George, Thomas, Francis, because I do talk about the brothers a little bit.
GTFM.
Ooh, it's a radio
Ta-ta
station.
for now. Sounds like a radio. Here we are back at GTFM.
Ta-ta for now.
Yeah, here on the 6 and 7s.
Wow.
Our radio show is back to back, I guess.
The 6 and the 7s.
Yeah.
So it's just the only thing I'm going to mention about his sister is that his sister lives a happy life, eventually marries the Spanish author Valentin Llano Gutierrez.
Okay.
I don't know his writing, but I thought it'd be fun to kind of mention another author, that her brother was also an author and she married one.
Nice.
But she lives a fine life. She's fine.
Yeah.
So I'm just putting her off in the everything's great category over there.
Sweet.
And maybe we touch on her husband later on.
All right.
So the family lives at the inn, the Swan and Hoop, where the dad, Thomas, works in the stable.
Okay. It's an inn, Swan and Hoop. Mm-hmm. Swan and Hoop.
Swan and Hoop Inn, out on the outskirts of London.
Sounds like something a basketball player would open. Like it's like
Right.
old and retired, and I'm gonna have my little New Hampshire inn. I'm gonna call it the Swan and Hoop because there's some swans nearby, and I used to play hoops. Yeah,
I love it. I would go there. Yeah. So Keats grows up in this kind of idyllic, outskirts London.
Yeah.
In lots of nature. So keep that in mind because he loves nature.
Nice.
Throughout his whole life. The family ends up owning the stables and inn. So they're fine. They're like actually becoming this like kind of like affluent family. Things are good. Keats attends a dame school as a small boy.
A dame school? That sounds like it's a girls' school.
It is a school taught by a female for a small fee. I had to look it up. Okay. I was like, what is a dame school?
Yeah, like we're going to teach you like manners and like how to sew or something. Like what's a dame school?
No, yeah, it just was like, because back in the, late 1700s, early 1800s, most of the educators were male.
Okay, yeah.
So then if you went to a school taught by a female, which is just so ironic to me because it's not what you expect from our current climate where it's predominantly females in the education system.
Yeah.
Not 100%, but predominantly females. So a woman,
it's more like, oh, that's dame school.
Yeah,
kind of,
it's like, and like it's not as, you don't have to pay as much, and you don't have to do as intense work with apprenticeships. It's just kind of more of this. The family didn't have a lot of money, but the Keatses always wanted their children to have high class education. They even had aspirations to send their sons to Eton. So they really wanted education, but they were humble inn workers, inn owners. They did the best they could, so they sent them to this dame school.
Nice. Okay.
I just loved that it's called a dame school. So weird.
Yeah.
But not in that century. Eventually, they are sent to a boarding school more in the center of London, closer to his grandparents' house.
Is that a bro school?
Just like a regular school, like a regular boarding school.
The dude
regular
school.
bro school, dude school. So this provides him with a more liberal and progressive education, actually.
Okay.
This boarding school that he goes to. He falls in love with classics and history and starts to really study classics and history. Now, if you know Keats' poem, like I mentioned earlier, Ode to a Grecian Urn, he loves to always still celebrate those classics and the history. So, he falls in love with this idea at a very young age, which he then later celebrates in his poetry.
Nice.
He befriends the headmaster's son. And all of this education has a great influence on the development of his career. So as the headmaster's son tells him, like, oh, let's get into more Renaissance work. So then he gets really into the idea of sonnets. He's totally growing and, like, maturing as this, like, well thought out, well balanced, educated young man.
Nice. Fun.
However, as a youngster, he was prone to extreme moods and was considered volatile.
Okay. So, like, early version of ADD or something?
Yeah, I think he probably had a little ADD and majorly and didn't, big thing with ADD. Well, ADHD, I would say, is that, you get these volatile moments because you can't always communicate your thoughts and feelings because it's hard.
Yeah.
And so, you know, especially living in a time where they didn't think of these things, and it's like, thank God we do. Now we can work with these individuals and help them not be frustrated.
Yeah.
But he was probably really frustrated because he couldn't communicate.
Right.
And after reading all of his letters and his poetry, he had a lot of emotions. And it's just that he couldn't communicate them all that well as a youngster. Mm-hmm. But by 13, he decides that he's going to focus his energy into his studies and starts to gain academic recognition with awards. So he's really smart. He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
He's got some emotional stuff, but he's like, they're like, oh, wow, this paper you wrote. Oh, this thing you did. Like, he's getting accolades, academic accolades.
Well, yeah. And I'm guessing there's like the little bit of pressure from his parents because they're like, we want you to go to Eton someday. And so it's like, you know, and
yes,
we can't send you to like these amazing school. I don't know. And maybe, I don't know.
But here's why he might have also been volatile.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up. His dad went to go visit him.
Okay.
And then on his return home, he dies from a head injury after falling from his horse.
Ouch.
Yeah. So that could also be why.
That was the whole thing. He just fell like off a horse.
Yeah, and he had a brain, and he like crushed his skull.
I was expecting you to say something else after that, like,
no.
And then the horse crushed him too, or something. I don't know.
Nope, he just fell off, hit his head.
Damn.
And again, we definitely live in a modern time where you fall and hit your head, you can go to a hospital pretty quickly, and hopefully things will be okay.
Yeah, or wear a helmet, you know.
Or yeah, exactly. They definitely didn't have helmets. So he falls from his horse. I think it was unclear. I think he made it home and then died.
Oh, so he had like maybe a concussion or something, or and then like went home and was like, all right, I'm gonna go to sleep. You know, feel a little like after my head hitting my head. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So again, the accounts of this time are hard. So I don't know if his volatile, extreme moods were because he was suffering from his dad dying.
Sure.
Or were the volatile moods beforehand and then that happened and then he was like, I'm going to get better and stay focused because that's what my dad would have wanted.
Yeah.
It's kind of very vague.
Well, it's just like those, there's all those stories with women who get locked up in insane asylums for just like things that are normal today, you know, but it's just like, oh, you're hysterical, we might just lock you away. And it's like, okay, but today it's like, you know, you'd look at that woman and you'd be like, she's a badass, like, good for her speaking up for herself and saying what she thinks.
Things like I think it was my great grandma, so my mom's grandma, I'm pretty sure that menopause, you know, not easy.
Yeah.
But they ended up having her go through like some sort of lobotomy because of it.
Oh,
or
wow.
shock treatments.
Okay.
Because of what we now know was menopause.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, yay for modern science.
I know, right?
Because, you know, you have a really rough menopause and your mood swings are hard and you're having these random hot flashes. And
and people are still expecting you to dress a certain way and do things. And it's just like, oh, but she's got this fever and she's freaking out about like the asparagus, like, fuck, you know? And it's just like, well, you made her wear a corset and heels and,
yeah, exactly. You know? Like, come on, people. Yeah, my mom says that, like, maybe it was her, I don't know, but it was like someone in the family had to go through shock treatments or a lobotomy because of menopause.
Oh, wow. Yeah. See, that's what I see. I see, like, there's probably a lot of women who went to mental institutions just because they were having, like, a really intense, like, PMS, you know?
Yeah, and well, and again, like, with what Keats is going through,
it's like his dad died. It's normal to be upset and have issues, you know?
Yeah.
Even if it's, like, repressed for a little bit and then it comes out, you know? Because...
But again, like the I don't know for sure because the streamlining, when I did all of my research, I don't know if it happened before or after the volatile comments. But it did. So I don't know. He is a very emotional man. Very emotional. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. That's why he makes the best poetry. If you have emotions, just use it in poetry and we'll all love it and lap it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what happens. His mom actually ends up remarrying 2 months later.
Oh, wow.
And leaves her children behind with some, like, guardians and the grandparents. And she's just like, I'm married, bye.
Yeah, I have a new life now. I don't need you.
Yeah, kind of. So
she, like, tell her new husband she's a virgin or something. And was like, no, I'm a new person. Like, new life.
New life.
Starting over.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked. I was like, wow, that's kind of shitty.
It could be, though, again, that like emotion, you're not allowed to feel emotion, so like I'm just going to ignore the problem, and all these things remind me of the
My children, my 4 beautiful children.
Yeah, they remind me too much of the husband who died, and I don't want to be locked in a mental institution, so I'm just going to suppress this
and just run away with my new husband.
Yeah.
But she returns after a year.
Oh.
And then instantly falls ill with TB and dies.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oops.
And all her children were hanging out the whole time. Just saying. And this all happens before he's 14.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Good childhood.
Right? You're just like, okay, this is a good start. Autumn of 1810, he leaves school to apprentice, I got a kick out of this, as a doctor, surgeon, apothecary.
Doctor, surgeon, apothecary. Okay.
Yeah, he's doing all 3.
Okay. Sure.
I just got a kick out of that. That's because I was like, okay. So you're the doctor, the surgeon.
And you give the medication.
And you need all 3 titles.
Yeah. Like, why isn't there one? Like, why aren't you just doctor?
Yeah.
And it's all encompassing,
like,
or something? I don't know.
The doctor
on Mondays, I'm a doctor. On Tuesdays, I'm a surgeon. And on Wednesday through Friday, I am an apothecary.
Exactly. Hello. Wow. Anyway. He lives above an apothecary until about 1813. So he's finished, how I have it in my mind, and again, it's not obviously the same, but he finishes high school and starts his undergrad in this like pre-med situation.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
so that's kind of how I'm picturing it.
Right.
But his pre-med has him being like that hipster med school student that's like living above his
pharmacy or whatever.
Yeah, it's like pharmacy, private practice type of situation.
Okay.
But it wouldn't be
there's an apartment in the building.
You can't do that
so.
now. But yeah, you know what? That's kind of like how I'm picturing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's en route to become a doctor / surgeon / apothecary.
Yeah.
And so from 1810 to 1813, he's doing that. So that's the undergrad years.
Okay. Yeah.
In 1814, he registers as a medical student at Guy's Hospital, age 21. So now he's like, okay, now I'm going to do kind of more of my med school stuff. So he did his pre-med from 1810 to 1813. 1814, he's now in medical school.
Wow.
At Guy's Hospital, age 21. He's extremely
Doogie
successful.
Howser.
I know, right? He's extremely successful and moves up quickly to become, instead of apprentice, a dresser. So now he's like, they're like, oh, we actually trust you. What?
A dresser?
Yeah, like
so
the wound dresser.
Oh, okay. I was like, he went into fashion?
No,
like,
no.
That was a weird left turn.
I was like, what? No. Dresser, like you do the surgery. I'm done with the surgery. Okay, now you stitch it up.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So,
that makes more sense.
Yeah. But he's clearly very smart, very highly intelligent, you know, with his K-12 years getting recognition and everything. And now it's like, wow, you're impressive. Like, you should be more than just like this little apprentice. Like, let's get you as a dresser. Let's get you working more hands-on. And he ended up living near Guy's Hospital with other students. So I'm picturing him. He's just this total med school guy. He's got his books. He's going in. I'm the dresser. He's surrounded by all these med school students.
Yeah.
Life's happening. However, rewind a few years. He had briefly, at age 19, had written his first poem. Not really into it. By now, though, fast forward to back to where I was saying. Living near the hospital, surrounded by all these med school students. He's into it. And I think he starts saying, I don't know if this is what I want. I remember this poem that I wrote. I remember kind of dabbling in poetry. I actually want to be a poet.
I'm not happy being one of these smart guys.
No.
Like, it's not for me. Like Greg Giraldo. He was a comedian, died in 2010, and he was a lawyer, and he was even at like Skaggs Arps, like one of the top law firms in the country and stuff like that. And after like a year, he's just like, I don't really want to do this. I'm going to go into stand up. And like became a stand up comedian.
See, and that's why I kind of wanted to mention it, because it's like we always hear of these people, especially like diving into authors. That's just what they did starting at a young age, and they just did it, or whatever. This one was like, I'm going to be a doctor. this is not making me happy. I wanted to be a poet. And that's what you hear more of nowadays, but you don't think it was happening back then. But it actually happened with Keats. He was about to be a very successful, very wealthy doctor.
I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be a poet. It's like something out of a Monty Python sketch, you know?
I saw that.
Mama, I just want to sing all the time.
It's the one from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And the prince is just like,
I don't want to be a prince.
I want to sing about it.
Yes.
No, there'll be no singing at all.
But he doesn't have the parents, so it's just like, I can do it.
I can do it. Yeah, exactly. So, he was
Who am I going to disappoint?
Absolutely no one. Well, it turns out he actually did disappoint a few people, but he's like, F it, I don't care. You're not my parents.
Yeah, you're not my mama.
Yeah. His like guardians, his quote unquote guardians.
Oh yeah, you're not my dad.
Yeah. We're disappointed, but whatever. He was a very avid reader, so he was very well read, very educated. He was inspired by Lord Byron.
Nice, of course.
So during his time of residency, he starts to dream of being that professional poet. But he is still torn by the two lives and causes major bouts of depression. I could be a successful, rich lawyer, help my family out. We've had kind of a rough childhood, but I really just want to be a poet. Like, this is my dream. This is what I want. And it's not easy. He doesn't make that like, whoo, yes, I love it. Da, 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 da. But by 1816, he gets his medical license, in my hand, and then announces that he's giving it all up to be a poet. He's
Rip that shit up.
Yeah, it's like, I have this, like, his whole life is so poetic and, like, kind of like a TV show that I could see all this happening, where it's like, and congratulations, John Keats, you are now a medical professional. Here's your certificate. And he looks at it, and he's standing on the stage, and all his friends and family are like, yay! And he's standing there looking at it, and you just know, I'm not happy. And he says, I can't do it.
Yes, he makes a big speech, and the person's like, we don't make speeches at graduation.
You're supposed to get off the stage.
Yeah, just leave, please.
Exactly. That's exactly what I thought. It's like, this is too romantic. There has to be all these kind of like rom-com-y moments to it. His life is a rom-com, except for not. But yes, I don't know. His life is a romance. His life could be a Nicolas Cage movie. Actually really could. Interesting. So he finished his degree. So he's like, okay, I still have like 2 more months. Let me at least finish it.
Mm-hmm. Before I give it all up and
become a poet.
Yeah.
But
that successful career.
Yes. But he spends time, those last like few months finishing up his degree, experimenting with sonnets, diving into different forms of poetry and studying literature. So he's like, it's kind of one of those things.
Nerd.
Yeah.
Okay, Poindexter.
It's like one of those
We're
things.
over here experimenting with like different drugs, hallucinating nutmeg and stuff, and you're like, I'm going to experiment with sonnets.
Oh, don't tonight. You would do the same thing.
I might do some hardcore limericks later this evening. Oh yeah.
You want to come over for some iambic trentameters? Those ones are always hard.
Yeah. Get into the haikus, you know?
Oh yeah, let's just have a night of going around doing haikus. It's a bout of haikus.
Mm-hmm.
I always do admire people who can pull a haiku out of their hair. Like
butt.
I was gonna say butt. I was like, that's not pretty. If we're talking about poetry, just pull a haiku out of the air.
Yeah, I got some haikus in my butt. Smuggled them across the border.
No, leave them there. Oh, anyway, so, and in 1816, he gets his first poem published in the Examiner newspaper magazine thing. Then 5 months later, his first book of poetry is published.
Cool.
But this is met with critical failure.
Uh-oh.
Complete failure. His original publishers under that book that it was published under, were ashamed.
Okay.
So not great.
Why?
His publisher's like, we're ashamed of you.
Please leave.
Please. Well, he ups and leaves. He's like, well, okay, I don't want my publishers ashamed of me, so I'm going to go find new ones. So he finds new ones. So he switches to Taylor and Hesse Publishing. But this was a smart move because then he's able to actually start developing more connections and influences and becomes part of the inner circle of this new age of poets. Now, a lot of people did fight this new age of poets, this romantic poetry.
Right, okay.
A lot of people did fight it. So he could have been published, but it was like people are just not ready for this type of poetry and therefore fought it.
Yeah, what was right before it? Like metaphysical stuff or something, or more sciencey, like, because this is also the Shelley times, you know, right? With Mary Shelley, Percy Shelley, and like that was her, you know, and so her, so since her stuff was very science but nature, so it's like the scientific romance, you know, romances and like, you know, the romantic period, not like Frankenstein and then he falls in love with his monster, you know.
Exactly. No, this is the romance. This is just like where things are
idealism.
Idealism. You know, things are not looked at with such a hard critical eye. It's a little bit more of like
back to nature,
nature, and what does this world provide us, and not thinking about heaven or thinking about heaven, but just a little bit more
the industrialism and like, you know, like this civilization-y kind of, because that's what I always notice with like literature periods is it's like it goes from this like hardcore like we're really into our civilization and like who, you know, humanity and talking about like, you know, us as like what we've built up and industrialism, science fiction, like all of that. We go into this like really like hardcore thing, and then all of a sudden we transfer into this like back to nature, you know, period where it's just like let's talk about like trees and, you know, and our relationship with like the rest of the universe and this, you know, and it's all much more flowery and flowy, and then we go back to it's the pastoral, and then we go back to this whole like let's talk about kings and you know, politics and and then we go back and nature, let's like, you know, run around in the woods and
I 100%
it's just like
agree.
back and forth.
Definite. I mean, just besides literature, I mean, well, literature reflects civilization, but you think of like just civilization itself, you know, going from the industrial period to then, you know, more of the
pastoral was before
the Industrial Revolution in America, and then you get more of the
like old westy stuff, like let's return back to
it just does a little bit of this pendulum swing. And so this is a reaction,
the middle of the pendulum swinging.
And so now he's now like part of this. I mean, because a lot of his poems are like, I was walking through the woods and this happened, or I was looking up in a tree and this happened. And it's like, I love his poetry. I really do, but I'm that nature freak that I probably would walk around and read Ode to a Nightingale just walking around the streets in the woods.
That's the whole reason you live in the woods, you know? Exactly. It's like when people are like, why do you live in the woods when you don't really do a lot of the outdoorsy, you know, things? And I'm like, because it's always been a dream of mine to sit in a forest reading a book, and now I can do that every day of my freaking life.
Exactly. Except for we also do a lot of outdoorsy stuff too, so.
I mean, you know.
Anyway.
Not as much as other people.
So he's transferred over to Taylor and Hesse Publishing, and he meets his friend Charles Armitage Brown.
Okay.
And that is one of the most important people in his life. But as with all students, while he is on his way to becoming a doctor, surgeon, apothecary, he obtains a lot of debt.
Oh,
and
that
instead
makes
of
sense.
becoming a doctor to pay off that debt, he's now a poet. His life is modern.
I know. It's like, wow, that's never happened again. Like you have all this debt from doing something, and then you have to like settle in a smaller career, or you find your bliss, and you're like, oh man, all those grad school bills.
Yeah, that's great. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I haven't had a conversation with anyone like that in the last week.
Right. Well, and that's why I was like, Nicholas Sparks could actually do this because he wouldn't even have to do like the historical drama of it all. You said
Nicolas Cage before, and now it makes a little bit more sense.
Did I say Nicolas Cage? Oh my gosh.
I just realized, but I was thinking that you meant Nicholas Sparks, and so that's what I heard in my head. And so Yeah, so it's like, okay, yeah, we're both on the same page. Like
Yeah,
Nicholas Sparks.
Nicholas Sparks. His life is a romance for that Nicholas Sparks could tell.
For anyone confused,
But
we
do it in a
both were
modern
thinking
day.
Nicholas Sparks.
Not Nicholas Cage. That'd be super weird.
That would be a weird movie.
That would be the weirdest. Hands down.
It would have to be like, yeah, now like,
oh my god, Nicholas.
there's like all these hidden messages in
Cage.
Keats' poetry
Oh god.
that are connected to, Buckingham Palace.
Right. I feel like Nicolas
And the
Cage will
hidden
never
treasure.
get out of National Treasure. Like everyone references his work in that.
It's National Treasure UK version.
I love that. Oh God, I would actually probably pay money.
I
to
would
see
pay
that.
money to hear Nicolas Cage do a British accent for like 2 hours. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
sounds
and try and
highly
be
entertaining.
like romantic enough to be not this like brutish, brooding man, but like this more floral romance nature guy. That would be entertaining. I would sneak wine into that movie though.
Oh
sure.
my God! Of course, you have to.
Yeah, I couldn't. I don't think I could sit there and not at least have a sip of wine and be like,
It would be a fun like guilty hate watch.
yes,
it would be a
guilty. It would be a
But I'd be so into
blissfully
it.
guilty hate watch. Yeah. I'd be happy, but I would be like, oh my God, what the hell? Anyway, sorry, Nicolas Cage. I loved you in Moonstruck. So, yeah, he's in debt. Keats is in debt, not Nicolas Cage. Keats is in debt.
just like spit take of my martini.
That transition, I realized I was like, wait, he's dead. Wait, no, we're back to Keats. So, Keats is in debt, but this debt is not helped with the fact that he also constantly is loaning money out to others, especially his
that's
brothers.
not
Yeah, so he's like, his brothers,
Well, that makes a little more sense.
yeah, need help. He also has school debt. Everything's not ideal.
But he doesn't have any money to begin with. It's weird to loan out money when you don't have any money.
I think because he was an apprentice, so I think you make something as an apprentice.
Sure, but
it's not much.
It's the Mitch Hedberg joke where it's just like, I'm in debt like thousands of dollars, so I'm not even at zero. So like, I can't, if I see a candy bar that costs $1, I can't afford it,
Right, yeah. Oh, I love Mitch Hedberg.
Yeah.
So, but this is about the time, 1816 is when his brother Tom falls ill with tuberculosis.
Oh, wow.
So they all move in with Tom to nurse Tom.
Oh.
Because they saw their mom die of tuberculosis.
Yes.
They're like, it's not good.
Yeah.
In June of 1818, I say this, probably needing a break, he and his brother George and George's wife and Charles Armitage Brown go on a walking tour of Scotland, Ireland, and the Lake Districts. And I died a little bit inside because I would probably go into that kind of debt.
So I
Can't afford a candy bar just to walk through the Scottish Ireland Lake District and just read books while I'm walking and looking at pictures and taking pictures and just like
definitely
stopping at pubs and having like a little pint and I would
cheese
love
plate,
this. A little
coffee, and...
something, yeah, right, coffee, tea. Oh my God, the amount of tea I would drink. I mean, on a regular day, I'd
George
drink
has
3
a
cups.
wife and he's borrowing money from his brother.
Yeah, right.
It's like, dude, get a job.
Oh God, right. George and his wife actually depart the group in Liverpool to emigrate to America. Again, your timing is
Interesting.
impeccable. Because they think he goes to America to go and try and find work.
Good.
So my next sentence was George and his wife depart the group in
You're
Liverpool
married.
to
You have
immigrate.
responsibilities to your own self now. Like,
Yes. Keats ends up catching a cold on this walking tour and is too weak to continue. So he goes back to Tom.
okay.
He's with Tom for a while. Tom, I have to say this. Tom dies in 1818, penniless and of tuberculosis.
Oh yeah.
And as a side note, George and his wife in America die also penniless and of tuberculosis.
Holy crap.
But in 1841. So he's a lot of tuberculosis.
Surrounding, yeah, everyone.
Surrounding.
Just everyone. His dad probably would have died of tuberculosis if he didn't, like, fall off that horse.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they probably
Maybe.
got it from the mom, so it
Yeah.
could have been avoided if the dad didn't fall off the horse.
Well, if he was alive, well, whatever, anyway.
Because then she got it, but who knows where she got it from.
Yeah.
But it's like, wow, tuberculosis really can take out a lot of people. And they didn't know what it was at the time.
Yeah.
There's some... They say, like, tuberculosis was if you kind of masturbated too much.
Of course.
Or that you just had a weak disposition. Or, yeah, like, they had no idea what tuberculosis was or how infectious it was.
Yeah, didn't they call it something, like, is that the one they called consumption?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Consumption. And it's just like, because it consumes you.
Yeah, not a good disease. So his whole family.
Wow.
His brother George and his wife, I do have to say, outlived Keats, but just to show you that it was like,
yeah,
every single brother died of tuberculosis.
Yeah.
But
Frances Mary, FM, she's cool. She's fine.
Yeah, yeah. I mentioned her at the beginning because I'm like, she's not really going to show up much.
Yeah, she's done.
The brothers kind of all hang out.
Whistling off into the sunset.
She's like, my brothers are so lame.
Gonna go marry this hot Spanish guy.
Yeah. So Keats, upon the completion of this walking tour and getting better, and then his, brother's health isn't great, he moves to Wentworth Place with his friend Charles Armitage Brown,
which sounds like someone who should be making Suits.
Yeah.
Or it sounds like the best friend character in like a romantic comedy. Mm-hmm. The best dude friend, or like the coworker. More like Charles Armitage Brown sounds like the angry boss in like a Lifetime movie.
Oh, I could see that.
Yeah.
But this guy, like Charles Armitage Brown, is actually seems like a really great guy.
I'm just saying the name. It
sounds like the angry boss.
Where it's just like, oh, do I choose between this boyfriend? But I also have my boss on my back who's constantly trying to, yelling at me about deadlines and this and that. And
what do I do?
Yeah.
So he moves there to Wentworth Place.
Okay.
Emphasizing Wentworth. This is the place in his life where he starts to develop and mature in his style of writing. It is at Wentworth that he writes 5 out of his 6 odes. Odes to a Cocktail is in 2021, but otherwise those 6 were at Wentworth.
He's had a long career.
Right? Oh, he's like so great. Keats is living more comfortable life with the help of the financial help of his friends. He travels, he writes. He has another book of poetry that his publishers kind of like, in my head, they were like, they pushed it out, but in my head it's like, you gotta get your deadline. You're not in your deadline. I'm just taking it and publishing it now. And he's like, it's not ready.
Oh, yeah.
So they push it out. And it's meant with murmur.
Oh.
Also, just completely
can we blame the publisher?
Torn apart.
Oh.
Right? So then Keats comes to them with his book of poetry, Lamia, Isabella, the Eve of St. Agnes, and other poems. But they decline it.
Oh.
I would love to point out that is the most celebrated book of poetry by Keats ever. And they initially declined it.
Yeah, well, the other things didn't do so well, so it's like, well, I don't know if we want to take this risk. Yeah. They probably didn't even really read it. They're just like, I don't know, it's probably not good. We thought that last thing was good. I don't know if we can trust our own judgment, man.
Right? We don't know. But again, they pushed it out. So who's to say what's going on? And this is eventually published before he dies. Okay. And it is met with critical acclaim.
Wow.
And people are like, wow, Keats is amazing. And I do have to say, I love it. The Eve of St. Agnes is probably one of my all-time favorite poets. Also, the main character in the Eve of St. Agnes' name is Madeline, but, that's neither here nor there.
There's no bias.
There's no bias, but I do really love it as a poem. It is a beautiful poem, and just really, again, that romance of, like, focusing on the aesthetics and describing the way the light falls through the window, and you're like, oh, this is so beautiful. Oh, stop it.
Yes, paint me paintings.
So, that's kind of what I'm going to mention about his life so far. And I'm going to hit pause and talk about one of the things that Keats is known for, which is his great loves.
Okay.
Now, there is one other love, Isabella Jones. They had a couple-year love affair. She was actually one of the first people to know he died. She was inspirational, witty, strong. But Keats actually was kind of afraid of love, so he always kept people at a distance, so he never really made anything serious out of that until he meets Fanny Brawne.
Fanny Brawne. That's a character out of a Jane Austen novel.
John Keats meets Fanny Brawne, Frances Brawne, during the fall of 1818. They have similar backgrounds with family connections to stables. She was also raised with like a stables. Her grandfather was a stable master, just like his father. And they both have a lot of connections to TB, tuberculosis. So they're like, hey, let's connect. And they just completely
And she
fall in
also was a apprentice to an apothecary, surgeon, doctor.
love. If women could, maybe she would have. She actually was more of an actress type, artsy, like kind of like eccentric and energetic, and loved the stage and stuff.
Sweet.
In November of 1818, their love affair begins, and it is a love affair that just will melt you into a puddle. It is completely told through letters between each other.
Okay. Oh, because he's like in Scotland and stuff.
No, they know each other.
Oh, but 1818, wasn't he in Scotland or something? I don't know. It's when his brother had tuberculosis.
So his brother. So yes,
So
thank you. I didn't say his
yeah.
brother died yet. I said like in 1818 his brother died. So their love affair starts, and it's tainted by the beginning of that love affair with his brother's death.
Okay, yeah.
So yes, I actually say that. Fanny and they meet. Their love affair begins. The two fall madly in love, but the beginning is tainted with the death of Tom, his brother. So it's still kind of muted. But from the ashes grows the phoenix. In April 1819, Fanny and her mother actually move into Wentworth Place.
Nice.
So now they're kind of like all boarding together in this house.
Yeah.
They send each other notes.
Oh.
He falls ill, and they can't actually spend a lot of time together, so they talk through glass windows.
Oh.
They sit around and read together.
Oh, that's cute.
And it becomes
through glass windows.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they could see each other, sometimes they couldn't. And it becomes such a fiery, burning passion of love that their friends all get nervous.
Really?
And start to separate them.
What?
Yeah. So
Because
Keats' friends take him on vacation to an island, and he writes poetry, and he sits there and he says things like, I have the luxury of only contemplating two things, you and the final hour of my life.
Aww.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Anyway.
I mean, like, they're thinking, like, I mean, if he's dying, I mean, I guess maybe for her, like, it's kind of bad to be in love with the dying man, but.
Well, they don't know that he's dying yet.
Okay.
He's just kind of getting sick, kind of getting cold. Yeah. He's not feeling 100%. But he's just like...
It's just so funny. That
but he's one of those people that his letters will become, I can't be in love with you. You're too much, and you're... I mean, I have all this written, but it's just... There's so much feeling behind it that I almost can't read it. Because it's... These letters are so like, I love you. You're the only thing I can... sleep, breathe, eat, function with. And then he's also like, but this love makes me nervous, and I should push you away, because he never really wanted to fall in love. And that's why like he had Isabella, but he never really did anything about it.
Yeah.
And he actually, this is the closest he got to getting married. They got quote unquote somewhat engaged, but Fanny Brawne inspires so many of his poems. Bright Star, The Eve of St. Agnes, and La Belle Dame Sans Merci. And the La Belle Dame Sans Merci is about a night. So the author is wandering through the woods, and he comes across this kind of stripped knight. And it's not like he's naked, but he's like not.
Oh yeah, he's just in his like undergarments.
Yeah, and the author says, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I fell in love with a woman, and she took me back to her cave, and she stripped me and left me for bare. So that idea of like he's very afraid of being hurt by love, which is taken on through this poem, La Belle Dame sans Merci, which is one of my favorites. But then you have the Eve of St. Agnes, which is about this woman who's trapped in this house, and the enemy of her family comes in and rescues her, and they run off together in the night to live forever in the stars. And then he actually writes her Bright Star. Oh. There's some discrepancy if they think that he wrote Bright Star for Isabella and then rewrote it for Fanny.
It's like, I did a really good job here, but
I want to make
don't
it for
want
you.
it for that girl anymore because I'm not into her.
So we don't know for sure, but Bright Star is basically like that. And he actually has poems directly written, and it says his poems are to Fanny.
Okay, yeah.
So his friends
cross out this Isabella. Does anyone have any whiteout?
But he just was so head over heels, but it scared him, and he's very volatile. Still,
I guess maybe people could see that, like, or think that he was getting sick because he's so like lovesick, or something.
Yeah, and so
it's like, this is not good for your health.
Yeah, so
got to take you to an island.
He goes to an island. That doesn't work. Then they go to London, and then that doesn't work. And then they finally are back together at Wentworth Place, and then it comes down that he does get tuberculosis. And they've never stopped writing each other for so many years. And she's also insecure because he talks about her beauty a lot, and we think her responses were, excuse me, like, I'm more than just beauty. Tell me what else you love about me. Do you love my spirit, my brain, something else?
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful. It's like oh God, if I could just read all of the letters to you guys right now, I would. So I just kind of rambled on about how romantic it is. So let me find a spot. They are never able to become fully engaged because he does want to make sure that his career takes off and offer her more than he can. He's a man in debt that relies on the kindness of his friends.
Yeah.
To become a poet. So he never can officially propose, but he takes Bright Star as that symbol of we're an item officially. And she loves it. He falls ill.
I would rather have, I think, a poem written for me as an engagement ring instead of an actual engagement ring.
I could see, I could see that. I would be totally down with that too.
Yeah, I don't know, because I'm not a jewelry person. I was talking even to my mom about that, where it's just like, I'm not a jewelry person, and so, I don't know, I'd want something else. And now I just decided, it's like, I want someone to propose to me by writing me a poem more than like giving me some sort of ring.
What would be so cute is to like make the poem, fold it up super small, and then put it into some sort of ring. Ooh. That'd be much more better.
But then I'm not going to wear that ring.
Ryan, you always have that necklace on.
I do like wearing a necklace. Yeah, I'd wear a ring around a necklace.
Yeah. And that could be like, this is my engagement ring.
Yay.
So,
gentlemen, if you have any ideas out there,
do what you gotta do. Write some poetry. So, with the TB, they encourage Keats to move to Italy. And so with his declining health...
Oh, yeah, because it's warmer and...
Yeah, drier and stuff. So
that seems where like all of the artists during that time, they all moved to like Italy.
For their health, yeah. So he moves to Italy and he goes to Rome, but his health is really, really bad. And so he actually cannot write anymore once he doesn't really write much more when he's in Rome. And he really only is able to write to Fanny's mother. Fanny's mother actually loved him. She'd be like, "Can you marry my daughter? I really am into you as my future son-in-law."
Yeah. Cute.
Totally like a very like progressive mom of just being like, "Yeah, totally. I love it." He lives in an apartment house off the Spanish Steps in Rome. And I wasn't into Keats when I went to Rome, but now that I'm like super duper into Keats, I actually remembered it and like went back and like saw the picture I took of like, oh, that's John Keats' house. Like, I'm glad I took that picture.
That's funny.
Because I didn't fall in love with him until about 4 years ago, when I watched a movie. And I was like, oh, I love this man. And now I read all his poetry. So 5 months after arriving in Rome, April 23rd, 1821, John Keats dies of tuberculosis. He is at the ripe age of 25.
Oh my God. It's crazy.
He's a baby.
Yeah.
He lived so much, but he also is so young.
Yeah. That's very rock and roll. I mean, honestly, he's like, that's why he is kind of the rock and roll, like he's star of poetry.
Poet. Yeah. So for an author who was only able to seriously write for 6 years, he truly left his mark on the literature community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of that is inspired by his great love, which was he was terrified by, but also by his intelligence and dedication and hard work.
Yeah.
The news took 1 month to reach Fanny.
Oh.
And she mourned him for almost 12 years.
Wow.
She finally got married that 12 years after his death and had 3 children. His letters survived to her. She preserved them. She kept them safe. You actually can read every single one of them. Her letters were buried with him.
Oh, wow.
In Italy.
Oh, wow.
So forever and ever,
We
they're
don't know.
together.
Yeah. Well, and we don't really know what she wrote to him then.
Yeah, that's why I said we speculate that's why earlier when I said that, because it's
based
like
off his
he's
response.
writing based on her response.
Yeah,
like, you say that I only love you for your looks, but I love you for more than that, or whatever.
Yeah. Just like James Joyce's love letters to Nora. We don't have Nora's ones, but we have James Joyce's. And so, you can kind of speculate. Those letters, by the way, are the dirtiest. They're like, it's like the best porn. It's so good.
This was not necessarily
yeah.
porn. This is just true.
It's Joyce, though. That's Joyce. Joyce is a little,
Keats is more about the romance
Yeah.
and stuff. And I'm not going to say, they say that it was never consummated, but I can't say that that's true or not.
Yeah, people were having sex all the time back then. Like,
And
we like to
he
pretend they
really
weren't.
loved her. And he made comments of like, I'm just lying on your chest or whatever. And so it's like, they probably did, but
Yeah.
it was just that he was,
Or maybe
he
they're
had
just very
so much
intimate.
emotion in his very small body.
Yeah.
His very small body. He had a lot of emotions, and it sparked a lot.
Oh.
So with my fun facts, off of that, fun fact, Keats was 5'1".
Oh my gosh.
He was a
I was
tiny
about to
little
ask
guy.
you because you kept saying tiny little body. I'm like, how tall is he?
5 foot.
Holy shit.
A little over 5 foot. He's a
my
tiny little
gosh.
guy. And Fanny is
cute.
actually the same name, fun fact, as his sister and his mom. So Fanny is a reoccurring thing.
Okay.
When he was finally published, he burned all of his writing before. So we don't have any of his original pieces because he was like, this is all terrible. I'm finally published. I'm going to burn it all. He burnt it all.
Oh no.
And
So then we don't even really know if maybe he was just kind of, like sketching, like doodling while he was, apprenticing and doing stuff like that, I guess.
yeah, we don't know. He burnt it all. He's like, this is terrible. I don't want people to see this. I burn it.
Sure. I understand that sometimes.
And then one of the other fun facts was that something I kind of already mentioned was that the main way, because he was sick, he had tuberculosis when he was with Fanny, but it wasn't like came out that he had tuberculosis until, that he was seriously enough sick that he should get away.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, you're always kind of falling sick. So most of the time Fanny couldn't actually go and see him in his rooms at Wentworth Place. So they would actually talk through a glass screen from out. She was outside, he's inside, and through letters, and it was
Very COVID.
letters. Yes, exactly, very COVID. And and he actually had a quote, and I should have written it down, but I was like, maybe it's too close to home for people, about quarantining.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, and there's the letters of that they would write to each other while still living in Wentworth Place. Is just like, some of it is just, come see me, I miss your face kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's like early text messages. And all we do now is talk to each other within a glass screen if you count computers and instead of a glass screen.
He's so modern. I love it. So that's the story of John Keats.
You know how there's that like TV show or something that's like Emily Dickinson, and it's supposed to be, it's like somewhat modernized but still based in the right time. I really want it to be good. I didn't like it. I watched like 1 or 2 episodes.
Oh no.
I know, and I was really disappointed. I was like, oh, what a bummer. I feel like you could do that with John Keats. You could do this sort of like modern, but you base it in the past, but then you can have like modern music and they're kind of using modern language or whatever, because talking about like student debt and like
Yep.
quarantining from people,
quarantining because you have tuberculosis.
Unfortunately, you probably only have like 2 seasons of that show since like really what you like, oh man.
I know, but it's so crazy because it's like, people know Keats.
Oh yeah,
he's a huge poet, but he was a medical student, and he's like, I want to be a poet, and he only got to do that for a few years before dying.
Yeah,
and I was like, wow, he's so cool. I love it, and I do suggest it. And one of my resources that I did for this, one of my resources that I did for this that I want to say before we do one of my resources is the novel Bright Star, which is a compilation of all of his letters to Fanny and some of his poems.
Nice.
And so it's Bright Star by John Keats, but compiled by Jane Campion. And so if you are at all intrigued and want to read any of these letters, it's like a 90-page book. You could read it in an afternoon, but just be swept away by the romance of it.
Yay. Get yourself a nice little bubble bath going, some candles.
And have an ode to a cocktail.
Yeah. And just read some like, love letters.
And poems.
Eat, a little thing of chocolates nearby.
Yeah. So what do you think of the reasoning behind this cocktail?
Okay, let's see. Well, the fact that you put tuberculosis in it was obvious.
I don't know if that should be funny, but it was funny.
I'm gonna cut that. And
like, we're gonna make so many people angry, but it was funny.
Let's see. Iced tea. I mean, there is, tea, British. There's that whole So,
kind of he lived a little bit of that aristocracy, even those through friends, life with tea.
Yes, yeah. I feel like amaretto is like a very sort of isn't there amaretto candies and stuff like that? And so I think of like, the whole chocolates, like Valentine's, like there's something kind of really sexy and romantic about like amaretto.
So on spot right now. Every single thing. Okay, keep going. I'm so happy about this.
And so then I feel like there's kind of a same thing with like cherries. But also cherries always remind me of like Shirley Temples and stuff. And so there's like this whole ageless young thing, in which is like, and he died really young. And so there's that cherries, is like young love. I guess that's why then there's like the whole virginity thing that goes with like, euphemisms with cherries, but probably because it's like, there's something it's a very youthful fruit, it's sweeter as opposed to like cranberries, which is more like, when you're young, you have frappuccinos. When you're an adult, you have cappuccinos, kind of thing.
I love it. Yes, totally.
And so
I didn't pick that one up. I thought more continued romance, but I like that. It is younger. It's a younger romantic romance.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. So you actually add more. And now there's 2 more ingredients, the limoncello and the lemon juice.
Oh, see, and then I'd kind of put that almost together for some reason, and I don't really, I don't know. I mean, because so it has, that's what makes it the Arnold Palmery thing, is it's like this lemonade. But
why not just do like,
kind of a nature thing without it being too like earthy in taste, otherwise it's going to have this, it's probably the most like, cherries obviously too, but like lemon, it's like lemon trees, thinking about the trees and the sunshine and lemons and they're yellow and I don't know. I'm just kind of.
I like it. Do you want me to give?
Yeah. Why did you do it?
Limoncello. Italiano.
Oh, yeah. Italy. Yeah.
So he's got that connection to Italy. You can actually go and see his house and everything. So it's like Italy for limoncello.
I always forget that limoncello is Italian for some reason. Really? It's just, I just don't have the association with it, even though.
Yeah, you can't even say limoncello without being like somewhat Italian.
I just think of think about like a lemon cello. Like someone made a cello out of lemons or something.
That would be the weirdest, coolest thing I've ever seen. And then the lemon juice itself comes from that he still had kind of this bitter side to him, that he wasn't just like romance and frolicking and love. Yeah. It was still that he still turns on her in ways because he's so scared of love, and he's, all these things that are happening, that he's still a little volatile. Mm-hmm. It's not just this smooth, easy, whew. Yeah. So yes, I was very specific. Yeah, I did find a drink that kind of meshed well.
Yes.
That was an Arnold Palmer meets the Amaretto Sour. But there was I took a lot of time to research that because I knew everything had to be very specific. Because there's so much to him. That I was you can't just, I couldn't just get away with, blue curacao vodka and candied fish. I had to do something more emotionally complicated.
And it gets us back into our game, and I feel like it's good to play little games with our podcast of let's play how much money was this in today's terms, and what age were they, and doing bad math while we're drinking and coming up with analogies in our drinks or metaphors in our drinks.
Yeah, and I really like this. I'd actually make it again.
Yeah, I know. It was really yummy. I would probably, what I would do? Instead of doing it like a cocktail, add sparkling water, and you could make a big old pitcher of it, and have it as a punch drink with friends, or summer day at a picnic or something like that. You could do Yeah,
I would do that. Oh, for sure I would do that. So... yes, I'm glad we got to the game, but I could also see me sitting down outside having this punch with Keats, who loved to be outside.
Yeah.
Because he wrote Ode to a Nightingale while just sitting under a tree and looking up.
I could see that. His name just in his poetry just always invokes this idea of being in some summer house by a lake, and there's not a cloud in the sky. That's just what I see, someone sitting there rowing a boat, while that's just what I see all the time with
all
Keats.
The time. Yeah, because he was very much I'm gonna just wander around outside and write what strikes me.
Yeah, there's a lady in the boat with a big sun umbrella thing, and some guy in pastel colors.
Yeah,
that's Keats.
That's Keats, man. That's Keats.
Thanks everyone for listening all the time.
Thank you.
Love you.
Yeah.
You guys help us. Yeah.
Just by having ears to let us ramble besides to each other all the time.
I know. You make us feel very special and not insane.
Yeah, because normally it's just us holed up in a corner holding our cocktails.
Yes.
Oh my God, what about this literature piece? We definitely come off a little crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Just ask our friends. No.
What friends? Just kidding. I'm just
our
kidding.
Books. The books are looking at us I don't know, girl.
I know. And that one definitely talks to me every time I come over.
The Gorvidal. No. Thank you guys so much for listening. And we're on Instagram. It's probably our most active platform. Tell your friends. And if you have any comments anytime, just leave it,
DM me.
Yeah, DM. Slide into our DMs.
DM us. Yeah. Cool.
Alrighty.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Other resources include EnglishLiterature.com, Britannica, and the novel Bright Star by John Keats, compiled by Jane Campion.